Hello, everyone. So, first of all, due to creative differences, we lost our little actor. So you're stuck with me. So this video, we are going to talk about peer-reviewed research. So this is the keystone of the research that you're going to be doing for this project and probably the rest of your research career at the university. So research in the academic fields is usually done by professors in their chosen field. So we specialize in something. So I do a lot of research regarding queer studies and feminist studies and sometimes mental health. So I actually have a tattoo of one of my favorite papers, or the title of my favorite paper, which has to do with my favorite book. So that's how deep we get into our research. Most of us are very excited and very dedicated to a certain aspect of our fields. So I have studied English, creative writing, and now rhetorical analysis, or this field of rhetoric and composition. So I have done research in all three of those fields, and I've been published in most of them as well. And then I got this nerdy tattoo that maybe you'll see one day. Anyway, so when you specialize in a field like that, your research has to do with that specific topic. So one of the more recent conferences I went to was a Walt Whitman conference, and so I talked about Walt Whitman, and this is kind of where the queer studies theories come in, and I did extensive research on a particular poem he wrote and compared it to a more contemporary poet and his work. So anyway, we do this both to stay relevant in our field, and oftentimes people have to do this research to keep their jobs as professors. Me though, my job title, I don't have to research to keep my job. I am specifically here to teach you. However, I do think it's important to do research and to stay relevant in your field of research. So that's sort of where these articles and stuff come from. So we do like papers like this, like what you're doing, except maybe on a bigger scale, something maybe a little bit more particular or more complicated, in order to stay knowledgeable and to stay relevant in the academic conversation. So you might have talked about this in Writing 1050, that there's this academic conversation that's going on all the time with different people's research. So even though I'm not talking specifically to a scholar or an author or something, by the fact that I'm reading their work and participating in the stuff that they are talking about, and using some of their language to complement my language and to back up my argument, that is sort of this academic research conversation that we are talking about. And so when you do your research, you're going to be looking for these peer-reviewed academic conversation type articles. So peer-reviewed means that, so let's say that I wrote an article. Let's talk about, so let's go back and say our buddy Jack wrote this brilliant paper about dog rescuing and why it is better for dogs to be rescued as opposed to dogs being bought at a store, because it continues the puppy mill sort of environment. And then so he finds a journal. So there's these academic journals that exist that you guys are going to be finding next week in order to find your articles and the research that's going to go into your paper. So you find a journal that is about animals. Okay, so you find a lot of journals about animals. You find stuff about animal livestock, you find stuff about exotic animals, and then you finally find a really great journal that is all about domestic pets. So that's what you're going to submit your journal to, or your article to, because it's specific towards your paper. And then several people are going to read it that are also experts in the field. And so they'll understand your paper and kind of have an idea of what you're talking about. And there's usually 3 things that happen when you submit an article like that. You either get it accepted, you get it accepted with edits, which is the most common, or you get rejected, which means they're not going to publish. So it goes through a very rigorous process. So not only are you doing the work, finding research and stuff, and writing this paper, and typically you don't get compensated for it. You have to do it in order to stay relevant, in order to keep your job, in order to do a lot of things, but you don't actually get paid for it. A lot of times it's just part of the expectations of being a professor. So you go through all this, you do this research. Sometimes you can get grant money to help you out. That's why professors have sabbaticals and different things like that to do this research. And then you try to get it published in these journals. And some journals are obviously more prestigious than others. And people in your field, like I said, go ahead and read it, give you edits, help you work on it to make it as best and as relevant and as sound as possible. And so when you hear people say things like, you need to do your research about, vaccines or, different government issues or things like that, a lot of times these articles are the heart of the research that gets filtered down into like newspaper or magazines or different things like that. Like, these are the experts that write these big articles, get published in these journals, and then talk to like the New York Times or WAPO or Time Magazine, different things like that. And that's how they become experts in their field, by publishing and doing research. And that's why these journal articles are so important, right? It's so important to have peer-reviewed sources, because they are measured, tested. They go through a very rigorous process to make sure that they are giving you good, sound information. And that's why we are going to be engaging in that type of research for this project. Okay, so we'll learn more about that next week. You'll actually get your hands dirty looking for these types of articles, and they oftentimes tend to be very specific. And we'll talk about different ways that you can use that research in order for it to work in your paper. All right, again, any questions, let me know. Have a good week.